And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very special segment today on the 22nd day of October. While looking outside the window here today, it is a bit cloudy, but it still looks very good. It's beautiful. It's been 24 degrees and cloudy and remaining that way for most of the day today. Well, today we have lots to talk about. And of course, we have the Daily India report with Ankita coming up as well. Well, have you watched the things that we did over the weekend? Of course, we know that the big event was Gopia's India Day Fair, which took place at the Suncorp Piazza this year. And despite so many competing functions and events, there was quite a decent amount of number of people who came up because we were operating under the COVID restrictions and in a COVID-approved venue. And of course, we were mindful of the numbers that were allowed in there with the restrictions or the current restrictions that have been put in place. So all of that, and of course on Sunday night we had the Music Junction, and what an amazing show that was, presented by Savi and our wonderful singers there, Usa Sivakula and Anvi Vaidya. They did a wonderful job and it was very well presented. And thank you everyone for such wonderful comments and for all the people for viewing it and for sharing it on with others. And of course, yesterday was the launch of the Fest Bate Madhu Ke Saath on Facebook Live. Of course, we know she does that show, which will go to air tonight. But the first episode of a live, Facebook segment of that was aired yesterday. And once again, thanks everyone for the wonderful comments and the like. So if you haven't seen any of these ones, you can go back on and have a look, because these are always up there on our Facebook channel and on the YouTube channel and everywhere. So right now, let's get on with the news for today and let's take a look at what's going to happen. Well, with the trial of the quarantine at home, of course, we've seen the hotel quarantines in its original form, then in its revised form, and now moving on with all the things, right now, I think Darwin and Northern Territory are going to be starting a trial of home quarantine. Here's that report.
I know we are asking people undertaking quarantine to take a lot of tests. It may seem arduous, but putting a rigorous testing program in place is the cornerstone of this plan, not just for this step, but for every step we take. Remember, this is the first of several stages that will allow easier movement in and out of the territory while minimising the spread and severity of COVID when it is in the territory. Our early steps are about quarantine and testing, so we can eventually get to just testing without having to quarantine. The advice of health experts is this testing cadence should allow us to catch any COVID cases before they become infectious, and there is a risk of community spread. The testing program will also be crucial to allowing us to make home quarantine practical for people, which brings me to some important details. Home quarantine will be free, in that we won't charge you for it, unlike house rents. Obviously, if you need to quarantine at an Airbnb or hotel, you would incur those private costs. If you do undertake quarantine at home, anyone who is in that home with you must also be fully vaccinated, and they will also be subject to the same testing conditions. That means a returning student can stay with mum and dad so long as they are all vaccinated and getting tested. Visiting friends and family can stay with you so long as you're all vaccinated and getting tested. If someone is undertaking home quarantine at your place, you do not also have to quarantine. You can still go to work and go about your life as long as you're fully vaccinated and getting the same tests done. The reason we can do this is because both people quarantining and those living with people quarantining will be tested at such a rate that we should know if you are COVID positive before you become infectious to others. The last few conditions. You cannot have any visitors to your house during this time. None of you can leave the high vaccination zone until you all return a negative day 17 test. So for example, a person in Darwin who is home quarantining or who has someone at their place quarantining can't go somewhere else like Catherine until their final negative test is confirmed. Following our pilots, we will expand the home quarantine program to other areas as they hit 80% fully vaxxed and as we ramp up testing resources in other locations. Creating high vaccination zones in remote communities will also be subject to further modelling from the Doherty Institute, consent from land councils and traditional owners. Moving to this testing regime will increase the workload for our COVID testing centres, and that's one of the reasons why we will pilot the program first. There will be logistical challenges in ensuring people can comply with the testing regime and get their tests back quickly enough. We are already working through these. Of course,
so that's good news there from Darwin with the home quarantine, and of course the conditions are there that it will be at your own cost even if you are in Airbnb. So the government is not going to be paying for that. You will have to be paying for that if you are there and need to quarantine at home. What's going to happen in Victoria as we're moving towards the ease restrictions? And of course, there's the magic 90% mark. If we hit that, here's that report.
The government thinks 90% of eligible Victorians will be double dosed in a month's time. For the first time, that number will include 12 to 15-year-olds. And when that happens, most restrictions we've lived with for so many months will be scrapped. You can have as many people in your home as you like. Outdoor gathering limits will also be scrapped. There'll be no limits on pubs, restaurants and cafes either for fully vaccinated people and subject to COVID-safe measures. And entertainment venues can also return to full capacity under the same guidelines. If you're fully vaccinated, you can go back to the office. And for most major events, no caps or density limits will apply, but there'll be some restrictions if the event has large numbers of kids attending, like the Boxing Day test. So it's unlikely we'll have 100,000 at the MCG. And there'll be some caps in place for religious ceremonies, weddings and funerals where people's vaccination status is unknown. You'll only need to wear a mask in high-risk settings like hospitals and aged care, or where you can't socially distance, like on public transport.
So that's the conditions for Victoria, and as you can see, they were talking about large venues and the numbers that will be kept in there and the conditions that will be placed. So that's what I was talking about, the conditions under which the India Day Fair was held with a limited capacity allowable in. We had to tape off quite a number of seats in the arena, but it was wonderful to see. Well, right now, 500,000 unvaccinated Victorians are there. So what's going to happen in there? So here's that report.
We've reached now 5,189,000 Victorians who've been vaccinated, first dose at least, across our state. That's almost 91% of the entire eligible population aged 12 and over. It also means there's probably about around 500,000 Victorians who are aged over 12 who are not currently protected by any form of vaccine. And it's that 500,000 cohort that we really want to focus on now, because they are the ones who are far more likely to be caught up in our daily case numbers, and we're continue to see very high daily case numbers, and disproportionately likely to end up in hospital or in intensive care. Over the last week, through our GPs, community pharmacy and our state clinics, we vaccinated 140,000 Victorians with their very first dose. So a week ago, we would have been around 650,000 people not protected. Today, that number's around 500,000. And really now, I urge those remaining 500,000 Victorians to come forward for your first dose. Go to your GP, come to your community pharmacy, come to any range of pop-up clinics around the state to get that first dose. And if you have any concerns, please speak to a trusted medical professional who can give you advice about what's right for you. Because what we've seen now of the new cases in the last week, 2/3 of the new cases every single day are not vaccinated. Not a first dose, not fully vaccinated, they're just not vaccinated. We're continue to see a very young age profile. 2/3 of our cases today are under the age of 40. And if I look at some of our local government areas of concern, in Wyndham, 96% of those new cases under the age of 40 were not fully vaccinated. In Hume, 97% of new cases under the age of 40 were not fully vaccinated. So please do it for your own protection and for the protection of those you love around you. Get that vaccination job done over the coming days. I'm delighted, therefore, as part of the ongoing rollout of giving vaccination closer to people, we have 7 more community pop-ups coming in this week, again to really start to target those individual communities where we're still seeing lower levels of take-up. That includes at the Coldstream Community Centre, at the Birchfield Children and Family Centre in Wantirna South, at the Macedonian Cultural Centre in Epping, at the Calcallo Community Centre,
So that's that report, Deep, coming from Victoria, and it's just going on with the numbers in which areas are there. Well, right now, let's take a look at overall Australia, and let's see how we have been tracking this COVID-19 vaccination.
Taking a look at the vaccine rollout, more than 126,000 doses have been administered in the past day. Close to 87% of people over the age of 16 have had one dose, while 73% are fully vaccinated. Turning to the states and territories, the ACT is accelerating towards a remarkable 90% double-dosed. New South Wales isn't far behind, having reached 85%. Tasmania and Victoria are moving steadily towards 75%. And the 80% target is in sight for Victoria, which will unlock the next easing of restrictions on Friday. The other states are still lagging behind the national average, with Western Australia yet to crack the 60% according to federal government figures.
So Western Australia were lagging a little bit behind there. But right now, before we go into the Daily India Report, we will take a message from our sponsors.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And real estate is the world. And don't forget that tomorrow we'll have Usha Chandra right here in the studios with the weekly real estate update, where we'll be looking at the trends, of course, looking at auctions, looking at private treaty sales, looking at number of listings, and going through the nation with the top cities and the graphs on there and all the activities that are happening. So that's coming up tomorrow, and we'd like to thank GlobeNet Realty for their continued support. Right now, it's time to go to our Daily India Report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you glimpses of the changing India and the growing engagement of the Indian diaspora with India. In our first story, India's Health Ministry has cautioned the citizens to adhere to COVID-appropriate behavior during the ongoing festival season as a new virus strain has got China locking down again. India's Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has urged all states and union territories to maintain caution and enforce COVID-appropriate behavior and restrictions during the ongoing festive season. Indian government said the number of novel coronavirus cases is rising sharply again in China due to a new strain. In the letter sent to the states, India's Health Secretary advised caution due to rapid increase in COVID-19 infections in many countries as COVID protocol were not being followed diligently. Despite a dipping COVID-19 graph, there is a need for a larger vaccination cover. Some experts opine that India is unlikely to see a COVID-19 wave like the devastating second wave. Yet, they say the lower number of COVID-19 cases does not necessarily mean the pandemic is now endemic. Meanwhile, India recorded 16,326 new COVID-19 cases, marking 29 straight days of a daily rise of less than 30,000. The death toll climbed to 453,708 as per Union Health Ministry data on 23rd October. China is seeing a new outbreak of COVID-19 cases. The latest outbreak was linked to an elderly couple who were in a group of several tourists. China has cancelled hundreds of flights, closed schools and ramped up mass testing on October 21st to try and stamp out the new COVID-19 outbreak linked to a group of tourists. The Chinese capital is ramping up measures like testing and restricting hotel bookings. A $8.6 billion India healthcare infrastructure upgrade plan called Prime Minister Atmanirbhar Swasth Bharat Yojana is launched in Varanasi. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the Pradhan Mantri Atmanirbhar Swasth Bharat Yojana nationwide at a function organized in Varanasi on 25th October. India plans to spend nearly 8.6 billion US dollars to ramp up health infrastructure, surveillance and health research in urban and rural areas by the 2025 to 26 fiscal. To address the global pandemic of COVID-19, the current focus is to make communities self-reliant in managing pandemics and health crises. Critical care services will be available in all the districts of the country with more than 500,000 populations through exclusive critical care hospital blocks, and the remaining districts will be covered through referral services. An important agenda under the scheme is to build an IT-enabled disease surveillance system by developing a network of surveillance laboratories at block, district, regional and national levels in metropolitan areas. Integrated Health Information Portal will be expanded to all states and union territories to connect all public health labs. The Prime Minister also inaugurated and laid the foundation of various development projects and works worth about 700 million US dollars in his parliamentary constituency of Varanasi. Prime Minister Modi inaugurated 9 newly built medical colleges in the state at a function in Siddharth Nagar. These medical colleges have been completed in Siddharth Nagar, Etah, Hardoi, Pratapgarh, Fatehpur, Deoria, Ghazipur, Mirzapur and Jaunpur districts. Of these, 8 medical colleges have been completed under Centre's scheme and 1 has been made functional by the state government with its own resources. India-UK discuss technical infrastructure cooperation ahead of the climate summit. India and the UK on 22nd October discussed technical and infrastructure cooperation to help India grow in a clean and sustainable way. In the discussions, India is said to have hinted it will make as an ambitious contribution at the upcoming UN Climate Summit in Glasgow. According to an External Affairs Ministry statement, talks between British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and India's External Affairs Minister Subramanyam Jaishankar focused on enhancing cooperation in trade and investments, healthcare, climate change, science and innovation, and defense and security. They agreed to strengthen cooperation in West Asia and the Indo-Pacific on countering terrorism and radical extremism and addressing emerging challenges in the cybercrime and space domains. The two ministers also reviewed a desire for unhindered access for humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan and that the Afghan territory not to be used to threaten or attack any country or to shelter or train terrorists or to plan or to finance terrorist attacks. A statement issued by the British High Commission in New Delhi ahead of the talks said Truss would highlight the importance of making concrete progress on climate change. Truss said that they would like to step up the partnership in critical areas like technology, investment, security and defense, as India is the world's largest democracy, a tech and economic powerhouse and a vital strategic partner for the UK. The British statement also hinted at a $15.86 million British investment in 2 venture capital funds aimed at supporting India's transition to cleaner energy, making use of the British expertise. Indian Home Minister Amit Shah inaugurates IIT Jammu, says Jammu and Kashmir both will be developed together now. Indian Home Minister Amit Shah on 24th October inaugurated the new campus of Indian Institute of Technology in Jammu amid tight security arrangements. The new campus of IIT Jammu has all the modern facilities and a state-of-the-art research center to cater to students of various disciplines and is meant for research and development. The Home Minister, accompanied by Union Ministers Dr. Jitendra Singh and Dharmendra Pradhan and Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir Manoj Sinha, reached Jammu Airport from Srinagar. Shah addressed a huge rally at Bhagwati Nagar area in Jammu and said the BJP government was committed to developing Jammu and Kashmir together. Hinting at terrorists and separatists, Shah said India will not tolerate anyone to create any hurdle in the development of J&K. He also underlined that people of Jammu will not be sidelined. He said $1.6 billion worth of investment has already come to the Union Territory and the government aims at a total of $6.8 billion by the end of 2022. The Home Minister asserted that if the youth join the development of J&K, terrorists will fail. Shah said it was his government's plan that no civilian gets killed in violence and terrorism is wiped out from Jammu and Kashmir. Shah is on a 3-day visit to J&K, and this was his first public rally after the centre revoked the special status of the erstwhile state of J&K and bifurcated it into two union territories on August 5, 2019. The Union Home Minister will also hold a meeting with MPs, MLAs and senior BJP leaders of J&K. He will also visit Digiana Gurudwara in Jammu to offer prayers. India aims at $101 billion capital goods manufacturing by 2025. India's new thrust is to increase domestic capital goods manufacturing output to $101 billion by 2025, a 225% jump from $31 billion in 2014 to 15. Commerce and Industry and Textiles Minister Piyush Goyal referred to the new national policy on capital goods while interacting with textile machinery manufacturers in a video conference on 24th October. The new policy aims to make the Indian textiles machinery sector a global player. The minister asked various arms of the government, textiles, heavy industries and digital innovation to synergize and help the sector gain technical efficiency and become cost competitive across the manufacturing value chain. The National Capital Goods Policy was approved by the Cabinet in May 2016. The policy plans to ramp up capital goods production capacity from 2.3 lakh crore in 2014 to 15 to 7.5 lakh crore in 2025. The objective is to also increase employment from 84 lakh to 3 crores. Goyal urged the textile industry to focus on speed, skill and scale and set a target for developing 100 textile machinery champions. Textile machinery manufacturers should get out of a command and control mindset and work through plug and play to make the textile sector vibrant. Goyal said India is not averse to imports, but it must reduce import dependency of the textile machinery by concerted effort between the textile engineering industry and government. Goyal said India is on a mission of transformational change and the government has set a target of $100 billion for textiles and garment exports over the next 5 years. A biopic on the life of Indian independence martyr Udam Singh, titled Sardar Udam Singh, is making waves. Famous Bollywood helmer Sujit Sarkar is credited with yet another impactful film titled Sardar Udam Singh, a biopic on the life of Udam Singh, an indelible figure in the Indian independence movement. The movie recently premiered on the OTT platform Amazon Prime Video. Udam Singh was best known for his headline-making assassination of Michael O'Dwyer, a former governor of Punjab who oversaw the horrific 1919 Amritsar massacre at the Jallianwala Bagh. Udam Singh's life and story have been a bit of mystery. But this film, crisscrossing continents and following the travels of Udam Singh, depicts how the man was obsessed with taking revenge for the innocent lives. Sarkar's film attempts to illustrate Singh's difficult upbringing in an orphanage in Punjab to his final days as a political martyr in London. Scotland Yard's investigation of the assassination takes up most of the running time. This is where the film is perhaps weak. Critics felt that the drama surrounding the assassination of O'Dwyer and more about the person could easily have been justified by the charismatic and dashing Vicky Kaushal who plays Udam Singh. Vicky plays an Udam who is a magnificently obsessed individual driven by the desire for freedom from colonization and closure on Jallianwala Bagh. The film does show a lengthy sequence depicting Singh's political awakening in the massacre's aftermath. The movie goes back and forth from the present where Udam is in London to his past and explores his reasons for assassinating O'Dwyer. Even though the authorities are on the lookout for him, he successfully evades them and lives in London, making a living as a salesman and then a welder. He is shown in front of Caxton Hall, making his way inside where O'Dwyer is giving a speech on his time as Lieutenant Governor of Punjab and how he had suppressed the revolution there. Udam makes his way to O'Dwyer, calls out his name and shoots him point blank multiple times. Kaushal delivers some of the film's most memorable moments as a young man shell-shocked by the horrors of colonialism. That's all for this bulletin of Daily India Report. Thank you for watching.
And thank you very much, Ankita, for that Daily India Report. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we leave for today, let's take a look at some of the news and functions and events taking place right here in Brisbane. ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you today. There's quite a lot happening there. There's few functions that have already taken place. And of course, there's lots that's been planned. There's lots of Diwali functions we will be holding something special on Diwali here as well. So stay tuned, and we'll let you know what's in store, what's being planned. I know a special segment of the Music Junction will be done for Diwali as well. Sabi is already planning a few things, so stay tuned. Right now, everyone have a wonderful rest of today. Well, it's still 24 degrees and mostly cloudy. It's been wonderful having your company. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me.